There's TV. This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
Hello, and welcome to Her Story, the show to encourage more women to explore the possibilities of using their skills and talents by participating in leadership roles within our community. I'm Tiffany James, and I have the pleasure of hosting this program, which was passed down to me from Mary Jane Murray. My hope is to continue to highlight and encourage women in our community as Mary Jane has in the past. I would like to introduce my first guest, Morag Budgeon, Executive Director of the Georgian Bay Center for the Arts in the heart of the River District in downtown Owen Sound. Welcome, Morag. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I have lots to say all the time, people will tell you.
That's great. We want to hear it. So can you tell us a little bit about your background and what made you get interested within the arts and then bringing the arts to Owen Sound?
Sure. So I actually moved to Owen Sound when I was 10 from PEI. My dad was in the Air Force and we retired here. And all through school, I think I probably excelled at art the most. And I was whether I was good or not, I'm not sure, but I was really encouraged to do art as a child and always praised. And so I thought, okay, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to become an artist. Now, I went to Georgian College in Barrie when they had an art program very early. So I would have been 18 at that point. That was a long time ago. And sort of at that point in my life, thought that the only way I could be an artist was to either be a graphic designer, an illustrator, or a fine artist. Those were the only things that I understood if I wanted to be an artist, what I could do. And I sort of went to school and washed out and ended up just spending 10 years just traveling the world, doing things, having fun, bartending, the sowing your wild oats.
Life experiences.
Yeah. And I always knew I wanted to be an artist, but I just didn't really know where I fit in. And then when I came back I'd spent a year living in Japan, and I came back and I met a friend who was making jewelry out of just Themo and friendly plastic, just costume jewelry. And I started making it and went, my God, I can sit here for 10 hours at a time and do this. Like I really fell into it. And at that point, I realized that there was a whole other world in the arts community that was craft. That I hadn't really even understood was there. So that journey sort of took me to going back to school. So I went to school in jewelry and metalwork in Barrie, and it was a 3-year program. So I graduated in the early 90s. And that was basically what my career was. So before I became sort of involved in arts organizations like I am now, I was a jeweler for 25 years and was in galleries in and around Ontario, traveled to craft shows all around Ontario. I did the One of a Kind for many years. I did local shows. I did just basically all shows in Ontario. So that was my career arc. And when I guess I got to a point where my children I had 3 children, they were very young, and I knew that I needed to do more than just travel around and doing craft shows. So that point is when I took a job at the Owen Sound Artist Co-op and started working there.
You started there in correct me if I'm wrong, 2012?
Yes.
Yeah, and you were there till just 2020?
2019. Yeah. Yes. So, and I was, the Artist Co-op was originally on 10th Street, which was great. And they did well, but I always felt the Artist Co-op needed to be on Main Street. And the board of directors gave me approval to look at a different space. I don't think they thought I could find anything. And I ended up negotiating and getting us into the McKay building, which they are now, which is building.
One of the historic buildings in the downtown area. Yes.
And it's a beautiful building, and I think it really suits the Artist Co-op, and it took it to a different level. I think it's busier than it was, but that is both exciting and adds other challenges. And then from there, under that umbrella of the Artist Co-op, I started what was called the workshops with my friend Alan McIntosh, who's a metal worker.
And Alan is your partner at Georgian Bay Center for the Arts, correct?
Yes. Yeah. And so we started that at the co-op. Just sort of, they said we could do it on our own. There was sort of they didn't want to affect them financially. So we basically had our own little pocket and did our work, and then decided that maybe we needed to just branch out on our own. And at that point in late 2019, we got the bingo hall next door, and we opened up Georgian Bay School for the Arts in 2020, January, like 5 minutes before COVID. So that's my arc that I went from sort of this. And because I had a career in the craft world that Alan did, it's important to us to make sure that people understand that craft is not just craft. It's maybe lost its gravitas over the years. I mean, you think of a craftsman 100 years ago, they were like
your blacksmith and your
glass blowers, your pot, all that stuff. Yeah. It wasn't machine made; it was handmade, and we've sort of lost that weight to the word craft. And Alan and I have always been wanting to bring that back. I think that it's actually almost, I would say, becoming extinct craft. I know that there are some crafts that are just gone now. For instance, I heard recently that a handmade cricket ball, nobody knows how to make that anymore. So I think I get that. We have that idea too of sort of trying to keep these skills from going extinct. I know it sounds extreme, but it is true.
And I think a lot of people don't realize that crafting is an art. Like, I love how you said that. It is. It's a skill that you do. And there's craft shows all over the place where people are showcasing their art. And a lot of people don't realize that when you're talking about craft. I love the fact that you're bringing that back into the community.
Those skills are really important. And I think that, for instance, people come in, I'm just going to use art. So Georgian Bay School for the Arts has pottery, printmaking, jewelry, stained glass, textiles, anything you can think of. People will come to pottery and they'll take one class and they'll get frustrated and not understand. They'll get frustrated and think, well, this looks like crap. I'm not happy
right away.
And I want to say, you know what? Your teacher has 10,000 hours of experience. She went to school for 3 years to take that. She's worked her craft. She knows what she's doing. So it's like, would you go into, and I'm going to use a really extreme example, go into your lawyer and spend a day shadowing them and say, okay, here I go. So I feel that I want people to understand that there is a skill and there's a learning curve, and it is a legitimate career option.
Absolutely.
I do. When I was in school and during most of my career, if I was ever asked to go speak at a school, I would always jump on it, because I remember I didn't have that. Like I said, I thought that I had to paint or draw or do graphic. I didn't realize there was this whole other would go into the schools and I would grab all the things for like a mug and a dress that somebody had made and things that I had that I'd bought at craft shows and show them to the kids and say, this is, you're not going to become stellar rich, but you could have a nice, satisfying career where you're your own boss.
I love that. So what made you decide to change your trajectory to go to giving art back to the community with workshops, with teaching art and the craft towards the community, instead of, I'm sure you still showcase your own jewelry and you still work on your own jewelry, but what made your passion switch to sharing your love with the community?
Well, I think that a pivotal moment was my children were young, and so finding time. And when I say young, they were like in their, really, really early teens, like 7 to 12. And it just wasn't, I think, me leaving and going away and doing shows for 3 days at a time, week at a time. It just was a little more exhausting. And I think I'd been doing it for 25 years. I was getting a bit tired. I've always been I was always well supported in this community, Owen Sound. I was at the farmers market for many years, and doing smaller shows locally was actually equally as financially lucrative as going out and going to Halliburton and Toronto and all these. So I decided to really scale that down and just looking for more to do, I guess. The kids were in school all day. And so Alan and I had always talked about having some kind of art school. He had actually explored it in another location at one point. It had fallen through. But the other thing was I didn't have a lot of skills. So my skill set was thin because I'd worked for myself. I made my own jewelry. I had business experience, but I didn't really have a lot of resume. They didn't look that great on a resume. So the Artist Co-op, actually the first time I applied at the Artist Co-op, I didn't get the job. And then that person fell through and I got it. And I was nervous because it wasn't something that I had done before. And I was very nervous, but I thought, you know what, it's just a different, just work hard. You'll figure it out. And I took an Excel course.
Look what you did.
Well, and I think that I kind of maybe I never really thought of arts administration, and I still don't think of myself as an arts administrator, but I guess I sort of am. And I really took to it. And I think my experience doing craft shows, and I actually ran a craft show in Owen Sound for 10 years as well. The Fine Craft Christmas show, which the Tom Thompson had run and then stopped it one year in October. And we all went, what? In October, you're not, they say they're not going to run it when it's was such a pivotal part of our
community,
really yearly income.
Yeah.
So I picked it up and did it at the now defunct Grey Granite Club and did that for 10 years. So I think that I had a lot of background in that stuff and just accumulated that I didn't even know I had. And so those skills were great to transfer over to the Artist Co-op.
That's amazing. What is something that you haven't explored that piques your interest or that you would like to do?
Oh gosh, I've been thinking about that question and I am struggling with it. I know this sounds, I have explored it, but I haven't made jewelry in 3 years. Since we started the GBR, I have not made a speck of jewelry. I don't have time. And I would like to explore going back to that, but going back to it in a more maybe even one of a kind way, or do what I want to do. I'm a very good production jeweler. They used to call me the queen of the $20 earring. Like I can slam stuff out. When I work, I'll work 14, 15, 16 hours at a time. And just, I can do that. And that's really bread and butter, but I've never really, I don't know if I have the skills to take it to that next level where I do what I want to do. And do people want that? Or I do more custom things or higher end, work more with gold, all that kind of stuff. I know I have the skills, but can I do it? I don't know if I have enough confidence in my design skills. So that's something that I would like to explore because I feel that my jewelry is really accessible and saleable, but I maybe would like to explore things that are a little more edgy or a little more thought-provoking. I don't know if I have that in me.
I think you do. I think you do. Have you thought of teaching? Do you teach your jewelry making at GBR?
I did, and I do teach things. I teach things other than jewelry as well. Our skills Alan and my skills are very transferable. So we find, like, sometimes I even teach kids stained glass. But I'm not crazy about teaching. I am too nervous that I'm not going to impart the right information. It's interesting because as a maker, you're by yourself and you're making. So I'm sitting at my bench for all this time and I don't really have any outside influences. I'm just making things as I figure them out. And when I meet other jewelers, they do something completely different. And sometimes I think I'm very basic. I have very basic hand tools. I don't have a lot of gadgets. I just make do with what I have. It's like going into the fridge and looking what you have and making dinner with it. Like That's what my tools and my skill set are. So I get intimidated by jewelers that are really, they're just geeking out over equipment, which I love, but I always think there's probably better ways to do them than I do them. So I don't have that confidence to teach. I think I do it okay, but I get so rung up and twisted up before that I try to avoid it.
It's funny listening to you talk because you've done so much within the art community by moving Artist Co-op to Main Street into the historic McKay building, and what you've done for the Artist Co-op, and then starting this not-for-profit to bring arts and to teach craft. And then you're telling me you're not sure if you have the confidence to do your jewelry. Because I think what you've done for the art scene in the area is just above and beyond. So I think that I think you would be fantastic.
Well, thank you. That's so kind of you. I think that I'm just so got so much going on, and so there's just we're jumping from one thing to the other that I sometimes don't sit back and think, wow. Sometimes I'll sit at night and I'll look at this place and go, wow, this was a big old stinky moldy building with mushrooms growing out of the carpet and green paint, and it was so disgusting, and look at what we've done.
Look at what you've done.
I think I just often don't have time, and when I have time to think about what I've done, I just want to tune out, so I sit in front of the TV and knit. That's my go-to. Just watch TV and knit, and then I can tune everything out. But thank you for those kind words.
Oh, no, thank you for what you've done for the art scene. One of the things I wanted to ask you is, what was a pivotal moment that inspired you, that you wanted to become more engaged in the community and you wanted that arts to be more forefront in Owen Sound and area?
I think it was once I took that job at the co-op. When I was working for myself and doing shows, you're really tunnel vision. You're thinking about the next show, you're getting your stuff done. And it's like any job you have, you've got your set of parameters around you that you sometimes don't think about the rest of what's going on. You're just thinking about that moment, getting to the show, the people you're at the show with, what they're doing. So when I got the job at the Artists Co-op, and then there's 40 artists there, and just sort of sitting and breathing with those people rather than gotta sell, gotta go, gotta do this, and just sort of being in that atmosphere and environment really made me aware, of course, of how many people there are in this area. Excuse me. How many people we don't even know that are in this area that they do a lot of the major shows, and they live up here, but they don't necessarily sell up here. And almost daily I would get a phone call, somebody asking, I have a child that is really into the arts and there's no place for them to go take classes. Do you have any suggestions? Or I really want to try pottery, but there's no place for me to go. A lot of, like I said, we work alone in our studios, and we're not really set up to have people come in and do classes, maybe one-on-one or two-on-one, but not a group of people. So when I would ask potters, I would ask people, do you want to teach? They'd kind of go, well, I really don't have the facility to do that. And so I think getting that from the public all the time, where can we go and learn? And knowing that the schools certainly were losing their funding for the arts. Those programs were shrinking. So, and I could see that by all the tools that were giving away in some of the schools that you just they weren't doing a lot of the crafts. They were doing still the painting but yeah, the ones that weren't so tool and equipment heavy. And I think that really sort of made me think, and Alan had talked about it before. And that was just sort of the impetus for what's happened here now.
Yeah, I love that you brought the summer camps this summer, that GB Arts had the summer camps. I have two boys that are very much into the arts and wanted to do something with them that I knew they would enjoy going to summer camp, because it's always a fight to go to summer camp because it's like school.
I know. I remember kids.
They loved it, and their friends went, because there's that whole scene, those artsy kids that I feel like are getting lost, and I love that you've brought that back and that you had those camps. Is that a plan to do more of those summer camps?
Yes, and we have always done camps, just sort of hit and miss. We maybe last year I think we did just half days, sort of testing the waters, half days. But this year we decided to really lean into it, and we had a staff member that we hired that could teach and could help with sort of really focus her on that part of it, because that's the problem. Alan and I just get pulled in so many directions. There's so many things. I could bend your ear for hours about projects we want to do, but it's just finding the time, and we can come up with the idea and we can sort of enforce it or make it happen, but we don't do it to its zenith. So having Elizabeth with Kids Camp was really great. So we decided to really lean into it, and we had every week in the summer we had a camp. Some days we had two, and they went really well. And we fed the kids lunch, which was amazing, because it was lasagna and mac and cheese, but the kids loved it because it was a hot lunch, and I guess it wasn't home. And I think our classes were great. I think that the projects that came out were great. The clay projects that they did, the graffiti projects, I was really proud. In fact, I behind me, you can see I'm up in our mezzanine, which we have just recently renovated, although right now it's just full of crap, to have a digital lab. So that's one thing we want to introduce as well. We have 12 iPads, and we had a morning camp with kids doing, because the kids would come in the morning and do one medium and then another in the afternoon. So we have a digital one as well where they were working on that. And so I was up in the mezzanine looking down because we would have the parents come for the last 15 minutes of the Friday. And I got really weepy watching all the parents and the kids showing their stuff. And their stuff it was really, I felt of it's just a higher level than often you can get at an arts camp, because we have all this equipment, because we have access. We put jeweler saws in the kids' hands. We put, they threw on the wheel. We did all that kind of stuff, and they took to it really well. So next year we're talking about doing more, making sure we have 2 camps every week, but we're also in talks with, so we did a bit with intersections, the wood gallery. And the Tom. Okay. So the kids for one morning would go to the Tom, or they went 3 mornings to intersections and worked in wood. We've been in talk with the Marine Rail Museum, and maybe having some kind of STEAM. So the science, technology, engineering, art, and math in the caboose. So, because the caboose is air conditioned and has washrooms. So we're really starting to think now about where we can take our kids' camp to make them even more exciting. And yeah, it was fun.
You did mention that the Center for the Arts is a not-for-profit. So does all of this funding come from your grants and?
Tiffany, I wish. No. So grants, grants. I do apply for a lot of grants, but grants are always very project-driven. So we received an amazing grant from Trillium, $100,000, and it was for equipment and sound system and new tools and all that thing, which is really amazing. And we received another one from RTO7, which was renovating. So we were able to renovate the space and get the lighting done so those kind of grants, but there's nothing for your day-to-day administration. And we really struggle. I have to say, I know I'm singing a song like many people are right now, but it's been a struggle. I'm starting to try and just be more open about it. It costs $28,000 a month to run this place.
Wow. And
so we need to sell, we need to hustle. And so we're having this fundraiser. We're always trying to think of ways. We're adding a retail section up in the front where we'll have our stained glass supplies and our clay supplies, things that people probably don't know we have, but maybe some of our instructors work. And we sell coffee, retail coffee from our coffee producer. So that kind of, we're trying to add that too. So we're always trying to think of things, because there is no money out there that we've been able to find. And because we're new, for that day-to-day.
But that is a good idea, because I'm not sure of anywhere around where you can. So my husband took up a little bit of a hobby of stained glass, and he was gifted a lot of his supplies, but there's nowhere that we could found in the area where you could go and get supplies to do that sort of craft work.
No, I think you've got to go to Barrie almost. So we have tools, we have glass for sale, we have tools, just things, and that was another whole component that, even the pottery supplies, the clay, the tools, you've got to go out. And if you're not, if you're working if you're a career, you'll have a wholesale account, you'll deal with that, you'll have that. But if you're a hobbyist, you might not. And you need that one piece of glass, a certain color, and we have that here. But people don't know, because then not only, you work and you get all this going, but then you've got to get it out to the people and have somebody on social media and make sure people know. So there's just so many elements.
Yes, exactly. What have you learned on your journey, Morag, from when you started as that jewelry maker to where you are now?
Well, and even I've learned that if I decide to do something, I can do it. And that's, I look back and I think of some of the things that I've done, and I thought, I can't believe you did that. So but I don't think I ever had that confidence. And I think particularly when I got to that artist co-op job, and I realized you just put your head down and you do the work. Really, all these things that I thought were, it has to be a really special person that can organize that or do this or manage that. it's just taking risks and just working hard. And I've learned that really. So if I'm, I guess how confidence, it kind of happens slowly. You don't even realize it's like potty training. You don't even realize when suddenly you're not, not me, the children, potty training children. Suddenly I realized that anything you throw at me, I could probably figure it out.
Oh, that's amazing. What advice would you give someone who's still trying to find their voice or find their path on what they want to do that inspires them?
Well, I really think community is huge. I think connecting with your community, connecting with your tribe. So this art, coming into places like the Artist Co-op, Intersections, the gallery, the Tom here, and meeting people and knowing that really you can do it. There's still a community out there that are making, and they're makers, and there's a community out there that wants to buy from the makers and start. You don't have to start large either. That's the other thing. Like I said, in your fridge, you look and you've got a lettuce and a thing of soy sauce. What are you going to make for dinner? So it's like, you don't need to start huge. You just start small and you make what you can, and you work with the tools that you have and the skills that you have. And the other thing is you have to work hard. Like if you're want to start something, it's not going to just happen overnight. It may take years to build up those skills, but it's worth it. And it's fun along the way. And you're your own boss.
Yeah, I love that. I love that you just need to have faith in yourself and have the time and believe in yourself. And I love that you've learned that you can do it if you put your mind to it. So I think that's the
community is huge too, because people want to help. If you're a new artist, we want to help you because it's kind of handing the torch over. So, maybe my time making jewelry and being the queen of the $20 earring is over, but I can give advice and I think people should be really open to your people that have been there and done it, because we want to share.
Yeah, I think, and it's great. And you're helping to develop that community within our area. And I love that. And that was one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to you today, because I really think that what you're doing for the art scene, what you're doing for the crafters, for the artists in our area is something that needs to be shared. So I can't thank you enough for being here, Morag. You were my first guest on Her Story.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes, this is new to me. This was I've taken it over from Mary Jane, and I've loved it, and you've inspired me. So thank you so much.
You can do it, Tiffany.
Thank you. It was wonderful getting to know you more, and I can't thank you for all that you do for the community and what you've done to the River District as well. Those two really nice storefronts downtown are partly because of you. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you for thinking of me and thinking I'm worthwhile.
No, you are.
I know, but we all. But I appreciate the recognition. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we're good.
Is that it?
Connect with us by visiting our website or email us at comments@rogerstv.com.
Hi, I'm Nico Addy.
And I'm Ethan Burris. Catch Attack Hockey on Rogers TV.
The regulars, the guys who keep this place in business. Last week, they had something to celebrate. Jason had just finished university. So they toasted his profs, his TAs, his old roommates. Well, they toasted just about everyone.